everybody, welcome back to the Stacey West preview show. I am your host Jake, as always, and this week we are looking to preview the game on Saturday away down at Bristol Rovers. So before we do get into the interview with Lucy, a Bristol Rovers fan, just got a little bit to say on the Derby County game. That Derby County game, a 2-0 win against the Rams, a surprising result. If you considered our performance only 10 days earlier away at Cambridge, completely different team. It looked to me that Jack Diamond and Matty Virtue had been gelled, had been shown how to play by Kennedy and the way he wants them to play in those positions, and they really gave what was needed. Obviously, Jack Diamond winning the penalty and scoring the goal. Carl Rushforth had a fantastic performance. I thought the whole back line were incredible to a T. And I want to give a big shout out to TJ, who, after a really poor performance down at Cambridge, really turned it around with a positive performance. Sean Rowan, another one that's fantastic and played really well also. So a really good result for us. A win at home. It feels like it's been forever since we last won at home. Obviously, it was the Crew game. But certainly a step in the right direction. So looking into Saturday's game away down at the Mem to play at Bristol Rovers. Last time we were there, pretty happy. Hunting Ground, we were able to beat them in the year we got to the playoffs. They also got relegated, but did manage to come straight back up last year, finishing third. They won on the final day 7-0 against Scunthorpe United, of all teams, to earn promotion back into League One. They've started the season off pretty well, above us in the league table. Obviously, they've got a few familiar names to us. Harry Anderson, a long-time serving Lincoln City player. He is at the Rovers, but is expected to miss out after he was picked up with an injury on Tuesday night. Also, John Marquis, who spent the last half of last season at Central Bank, he's also playing for the Gas. So, and the dugout, Jerry Barton, whether you love him or you hate him, a bit of a pantomime villain, especially after the cup game against Burnley a couple of years ago. He's in the dugout. He's been saying a few choice words about Lincoln and how he expects them to play, in terms of thinking we're going to hoof the ball up, and you do get worried if that's what he's going to be thinking. So looking forward to it. Now let's get into the conversation that I had earlier on today with Lucy Ford, who is a big Gas head. Also, she co-founded the Her Game 2 movement. So here's what Lucy had to say. Right, we're joined by Lucy Ford, a big Gas head and also a really pivotal member of the Her Game 2 movement. Lucy, how you getting on?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries whatsoever. You are obviously very intelligent when it comes to talking all things Gas. Let's talk about the window then that the Gas had. Out of all the summer signings that you made, and I believe you made quite a few, has there been one that stood out to you? Obviously, I think John Marquis is a familiar face for Lincoln fans. Who's been your best summer signing so far?
Oh, best summer signing. It's kind of a tricky one, to be honest, because we've had a few players come in. Obviously, for example, like James Connolly, who we had on loan second half of last season, part of the extremely solid defence we have with Connor Taylor. And to get him back in on a permanent was brilliant. Obviously, at the moment he's injured, so he won't be playing this Saturday. I obviously not seen too much of him yet, but Luke McCormack, just because obviously when we had him the last time, yes, we got relegated, yes, we were bottom of the league. Obviously he was on loan from Chelsea, and he was kind of like a shining light in a pretty bad season. I know, again, he played for AFC Wimbledon last season. Yes, they got relegated. However, it's going to be good to see him, and hopefully, a better team than we were 2 years ago. Although at the moment we are really struggling, and we've got a lot of injuries and suspensions.
Do you know, the one thing I did want to ask you about, obviously that day that you guys got promoted, 7-0 against Scunthorpe, must have been madness down the men for you guys.
Oh my gosh, it was literally like probably like one of the best days of my life. Honestly, was. It was just, I mean, in the course of that week, it was, I just kept getting waves of different emotion, like feeling quite emotional about the game, feeling nervous, feeling excited. And then I woke up on a Saturday morning and I just felt really calm. And I was like, I knew we were going to do it, but I didn't know we were going to do it like that. It was just it was just crazy. I think if anyone could have wrote a story or a film like that, that is like the Hollywood ending. And honestly, when that seventh goal went in, I just fell to the floor and I just burst into tears. I really did. And I think after, obviously, then there was the delay, and then the game restarted, and then when the full time whistle went, I started crying again. And I think I was on, everyone was celebrating, and I honestly just couldn't stop crying for about 15 minutes, just because I was like, what have we just done? Like, this doesn't happen. Like, this will never happen again. But it was honestly just the most incredible weekend, and just to be there with my my family and my friends and stuff. It was just incredible. And to be honest, I felt like I was just celebrating for the whole month of May.
Yeah, I think you probably went out with Kaz for a few waters afterwards.
Oh yeah. We were definitely celebrating down Gloucester Road that night, and for a couple of days after.
Yeah. Yeah, this obviously that means you got promoted back into League One. First time of asking. League One's a difficult league now with all the teams like Ipswich, Pompey, Peterborough, etc. What's the aim for the season?
Like you said, League One is honestly such a strong league this year. I think it's got even stronger than it was the last time we were in League One. Like you said, some of the teams in there. Obviously, first and foremost, you've got to stay up. We can't, keep yo-yoing between League One and League Two. But for me, obviously, staying up is priority. But ideally, I'd like to compete. Obviously, top half would be an absolute dream, but I think we are still quite far away from that at the moment. So staying up, but feeling comfortable in League One. I think because of how strong League One is, I think it's going to be, you've got to take your time with it and kind of grow over a couple of seasons. Just because the gulf is so big. Obviously, for example, we played Ipswich on Tuesday night. We didn't play well, but in Ipswich defence, they are an absolutely excellent team. They're unbeaten. People over there were saying that and other people were commenting saying how well they were playing their football. It looks like that the way they're playing it is better than League One. They have bought players that are over £1 million, and that's to their detriment. So, but yeah, it's going to be a tough year. But I have hope that we will do okay in this league. Although I did say that the last time we were in League One and it ended up horrendously. But yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be interesting. I think there are so many big teams, and I think that's what makes it interesting, because not all those teams are going to go up. There's only 2 automatic slots and 1 playoff slot, so there's going to be teams, really big teams, that not even make the playoffs, and that'll be interesting, because then there's gonna be teams that might get frustrated. For example, I know Sunderland were down there for several years, and their fans were frustrated as they felt they could bounce back first time, and it took them a little while. And I think League One is like that. Ipswich is down here a while now. Portsmouth has been, Charlton has been. So yeah, it's an interesting league.
I was going to ask you about that Ipswich game, but you've summed it up pretty well. There is a talking point. Obviously, you had 2 centre halves sent off. Kilgore and the lad from Burnley, I think, also got sent off.
Bobby Thomas got second yellow.
Leaving you guys with a bit of a selection headache at centre half. I think it's only Luca Hall that can play at centre half that you've got fit and available at the moment. Is that going to be a bit of a nightmare for you on Saturday afternoon?
Yes. And Luca Hall's just been called up to the Welsh under-21s. So I have no idea we're going to play in defence. It might end up being Whelan and Coates. I honestly think it could be. Which slightly gives me horror show, which gives me a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, because obviously they have experience, don't get me wrong, they are still decent League One players, but they're not defensive players. Obviously they're midfielders, but they're not really defensive players. So it's gonna be very interesting, and that kind of worries me a bit, because the last few games we've kind of been conceding anyway and mumbling along, and second yellows are always a bit frustrating. I think with the Kilgore sending off, he was, the player was running for on goal and he took him down, and I know you don't want to have the goal, but if he didn't do that and they've scored, the guy would have been sent off. So it's just frustration really, because we are suffering with injuries, but I know that every other team is too. So we can't just be down on ourselves just because we've got injuries. I know other teams suffer it as well. But it's just frustrating because, that puts us in a very weakened position going into Saturday's game, because like we were all saying, I have no idea we're going to play in defence. I really don't. And that which terrifies me, because it is going to be a makeshift defence. And when you've kind of been, like the last few weeks kind of been mumbling along, we've drawn a couple, we obviously lost on Tuesday night, fans probably are starting to get a little bit frustrated, like, obviously wanting to win games. We've got 2 home games in a row now. We've got obviously yourselves and then Accrington before Exeter away. And yeah, it's weird. I mean, I'm as in the dark as everyone else about who's going to play in defence, because it's just going to be. It could be anyone. It could be me. It could be me.
I can imagine it.
No one wants to see me play. I'd probably get injured within the first 30 seconds, so that would not happen.
Yeah, well, I think you're quite worried. I think we're quite actually excited about playing a team with no defenders. Joey Barton, then, he's no stranger to Lincoln City, given his exploits at Burnley when we played him in the Cup. He's had a few choice words to say about Lincoln in the media as well this week, saying that we're going to just lump it forward. Is Joey Barton the right man, do you think, to take Rovers the gas forward, or are we sort of coming to a real do-or-die season for Joey?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously when he came in, when we were in League One the last time, I kind of felt, well, these aren't his players. He just kind of have to do the best in a bad situation. Obviously, we went down. That team pretty much completely changed. Obviously, he brought in his new players. We don't start well anyway, so we're kind of in this spell of we're not starting well, and we're still a few games into the season now. Obviously, we didn't play last Saturday, but when you get into that 10-game mark, you kind of want to see where you are. And I think around 10 games last year, I think we were only about 17th, 18th anyway. So it'd be interesting to see where we are this season. Obviously, we didn't have the injury crisis or the suspension crisis like we had last season, like we do this season. It's hard because obviously Joe Barton is a pretty controversial figure in itself. In himself. Last season, second half of last season, we were probably arguably one of the best teams in League Two. The signings that he has made, and the contacts that he does have in the football industry, has brought us in some brilliant players. I mean, Elliot Anderson for one. How on earth he was playing in League Two, I will never know, because that kid was way too good for League Two, and it was clear and obvious. Only now you can see him on the bench for Newcastle, which shows his talent. And fair play to him. But yeah, it's kind of divided the fan base, to be honest. I think it's been quite tricky at times because of just who he is. Some fans really like him, some fans really don't. And yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, for me it's about the style of football and the results. It is a results business. So yeah, I just kind of judge it on that.
And 2 players I want to ask you about might be pretty obvious given their ties to Lincoln. John Marquis, Harry Anderson, how are they both getting on? 2 players that were loved by Lincoln fans. They're playing their trade at gas at the moment.
Yeah, so I'll go with Harry Anderson first. He unfortunately picked up a bit of an injury on Tuesday night, which I was gutted about, because I really like Harry Anderson. I really like the way he plays. I think last year it took him a while to find the position. He wasn't really being played in the right position. Once he did, I was really impressed with him. I don't know if Kaz will be watching this, but we had a bit of a sing song about him at Exeter away last season, about a song we created about selling for 20 million. So so I quite like him. I think he's a really versatile player. I like the way he plays. I'm hoping that he's not injured, because obviously, again, it's another defensive player that we can't play if he is. John Marquis, he's kind of he's had quite a quieter start, to be honest. I quite like his presence in the forward line. I know Burton away is kind of getting a little bit frustrated because he hadn't scored then, and obviously we won 4-0 that day, but kind of he's working well with Collins. I think Collins has been the standout, to be honest, since the start of the season, with his goals and his assists as well. And I'm hoping that we can, and obviously Ryan Loft's chipped in with a couple as well. And I'm just hoping that Marcus can kind of find the same form as Loft and Collins can as well, because if we could get all three firing, because Joey likes to play, well, has been playing three up front at times. So yeah, it'd be good to get all three of them playing well together.
And can I push you for a score prediction for Saturday afternoon?
Oh gosh, that's a good question, because I honestly have no idea. But I always like to be positive, so I think we will win 2-1. I think we'll concede because, like we said, what defense are we actually going to have on Belshall and others on Saturday? And yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to just get a home win, because I think the last kind of couple of home games have been frustrating. We've both drawn. We're 1-0 up against Shrewsbury and drew that one, and they were not a fun team to play against. And then obviously drew 2-2 with Morecambe, coming from 1-0 down and 2-1 down both games. In that game. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one, and I think a draw a win, would lift everyone's spirits. But obviously, we're not going to underestimate the fact that we have no defence, and you did beat Derby on Tuesday night, which is a pretty good result.
Yeah, we're still pretty high off that result. Do you want to? I'm sure everybody knows the movement. Would you like just to tell the listeners and the watchers a little bit more about the Her Game 2 movement that you're very heavily involved in?
Yeah. So I'm one of the co-founders. We did a video about in May 2021 to kind of tackle sexism in football. So myself, Kaz, and the 10 other girls involved initially had all experienced sexism either online or in person for just being female football fans. And from then we've kind of, spread the message into, football grounds, having reporting systems in place so that female fans who are attending can report any instances if they happen, but also making sure that these grounds are safe and inclusive environments for everyone to go and watch their football team. And then obviously over the last couple of years, last probably 15-16 months or so, since the campaign started in May 2021, we spread out into cricket and rugby union as well. So yeah, it's just kind of been a bit of a whirlwind, to be honest. Obviously watching Rovers and then doing that as well as the day job as well. So I have a nice busy life, but it's good, and I'm really proud to be a part of it, because obviously discrimination in football should not be happening in any sort of form. And if a female fan came to watch just Lincoln or Rovers for the first time, I know that I and lots and lots of people would want them to feel welcomed coming to a game if it's their first ever game. And no matter what the result is, hopefully they'll come back.
Yeah, absolutely, and keep up the really good work. It's really been good to watch you guys do the work that you do and get involved with so many football clubs as well. Well, thank you very much, Lucy, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come and talk to us about the gas. And all the best for the rest of the season. But obviously not Saturday, and when you come back to the band.
No problem at all, and yeah, likewise to yourself.
Thank you, Lucy.
Huge thank you to Lucy for getting involved with this match day preview. Really, really insightful. Also, spoke really well about the Her Game 2 movement and how that's really, really important. Obviously, we have a very diverse crowd here at Lincoln City Football Club, and it's really good to see movements such as that win partnerships in football, cricket, rugby, etc. They're only going in the right direction. So I will leave a link to that video that Lucy alluded to in the description below. But yeah, that does bring us to the end of another Stacey West preview show. As always, please make sure that you like, comment and subscribe. We are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2022. It's looking a bit more optimistic at the moment, but however, I believe we can get there. We are churning content out of our ears at the moment with the blog, the podcast and the YouTube videos. We will have a West End Imp show for you Sunday lunchtime, there or thereabouts, if not Sunday afternoon. with myself and Chris also. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you next time up the Imps.